All right, guys, here we go. Good morning. This is Tri-Town Preserve, Part 2. Okay, in our last video, gave you a little background on Tri-Town Preserve, one of the newer Avalonia Conservancy properties, one of the biggest. Massive property up here, North Stonington, Griswold, and Preston. Awesome place, man. Just flat out, just a cool place. You gotta get out here. So I'm here. It is a cold, rainy day. I think it's 43 degrees. October 17th, 2020, and we're gonna do the second part of this Tri-Town Preserve. Right now I'm working over, I picked up the video exactly where we stopped our last video, looking at those cairns. So Eddie and I are here again, and going to take you to the couple different features here today. Another thing I want to talk about today, though, is how one of the cool things about Tri-Town is it abuts other property, other land conservancy properties. I will show you right now what I'm talking about. All right, let's come on over here and take a look. Okay, so I'm kind of leaving the the Avalonia property, and you can see here John and Alice Davis Forest Preserve, no trespassing, hunting, or fishing. So this is a different preserve. The John and Alice Davis Preserve. I don't know much about that outside of it's a land conservancy in North Stonington. Maybe it'd be something worth getting into, but that's one of the land conservancy things we could talk about. There are many, many groups other than Avalonia. You can see here on the other side of this tree here, they kind of giving a tip of the cap saying, hey, this is the Avalonia property. So it's kind of, it's more than anything, it's just sort of marking their land. Okay, so there are two other preserves that abut this property: Patchogue State Forest, and then the Rhode Island Borderland Preserve, I believe it is. Because you theoretically could walk through these trails and eventually work your way out into Rhode Island. Not the Tri-Town Preserve, but if you got into that Borderlands Preserve, which maybe we'll get into that. I'm not sure. So one of the cool things here, outside of like the cairns and the rock walls and their foundations, there's a lot of stuff going on. The old carriage roads that folks used to use hundreds of years ago. It's the topography of Tri-Town that I think is so cool. Like right now, I'm beginning some elevation change. It's pretty significant. I think there's about 600 feet of elevation change that we're about to go through right now based off of, my stuff when I clock these hikes. So that's something we could look at. And it gives you really a sense of being in a different place, not in North Stonington, Connecticut, but maybe like in another part of New England. That's what's really cool about this area. I also want to talk about what might have been had Avalonia Conservancy not stepped in. This Tri-Town Preserve, which, several hundred acres of land. It was owned by a Tennessee developer, property developer, who had intentions to break this up and basically create a subdivision, a neighborhood. He was going to take it and create like high-end subdivision, some homes and, on big parcels of land, that a handful of people would have had. Oh, okay. I thought I saw a deer up there, but it's a fern in the distant there, kind of waving back and forth. So anyways, the Tennessee land developer, this property developer, had intentions on carving this up, creating a subdivision, and having it be private land, owned by private property owners. As I've said before in these videos, and I'll continue to reiterate, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and say that's bad, because we all live in houses too. You know what I mean? We all live in areas that at one point looked more like this, or were farmland, that was turned into subdevelopments. That's a lot of neighborhoods in Stonington fall into that category, and pretty much all of it. No, not pretty much. Every single home in Stonington at one point was private, or was wild land, or natural land. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's progress. That's development. So I don't want you to think I'm sitting here saying it's bad if we start developing land. That's not what I'm trying to say. Rather, what we're trying to get across here is the importance of kind of checking ourselves at time. Kind of saying, wait a second, let's maybe we shouldn't develop this. Maybe we shouldn't take this one of our last spaces like this that we have around here and make it into another neighborhood. Maybe we could do that in a different way. And that's where Avalonia and groups like Avalonia come in. They come in to preserve and protect these places so we all have them. I mean, there aren't many places you can go within a short drive of Stonington and have this kind of experience here. I've been walking uphill essentially since I started this video, and I mean, it's the topography of this area. The elevation change is cool, and I'm sure it would have made for a very nice neighborhood. I've seen those neighborhoods. It's nice, but we also need to have these kind of places too. As human beings, the wildlife, the different bird species that rely upon these kind of places. So it's a good thing that this was set aside and preserved, because had it not, it would be gone forever. And we need that. We need that development for sure. Progress. It's a good thing. But we also need these kind of places. This land was farmed. This land was native land. There are rock walls here that we're going to look at on LiDAR, which kind of see some of them here that are definitely not farmers, and there are some that are from farmers. When we see rock walls out in the woods, right, a lot of times that was because farmers cleared the land. We've talked about this many times. Cleared the land. That's a cool tree. Check that out. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. That's pretty sweet. But anyways, a lot of times it's farmers clearing land and taking those rocks to mark off their property or to pin in their cattle, whatever it may be. But sometimes we see rock walls that serpentine through the woods, kind of like this one here. This one sort of wraps around. It's built into the hill. It's got like a lot of curvature to it. Farmers didn't build walls like that. Colonists didn't build walls like that. These are native people built these walls. And that's freaking awesome, man. It's cool that they're still here, It's really neat to think that for ceremonial purposes, perhaps, or other ritualistic, or just for aesthetic, because they look cool. Native people, indigenous people to this land built these cool rock walls. It's pretty neat. And this one's definitely an example of that. It's just kind of meandering through the woods. Pretty cool. So I'll show you a couple more things. I was hoping to keep this under 10 minutes. Sorry. It's going to go a little bit longer. But there's a lot more to do here in this preserve. And probably break our videos up into 4 or 5 videos for this entire preserve, because it's that big. I mean, I'm looking over here, and I really don't know how well this is going to show. But, I mean, I can see the continuation of this going up. It's insane. There's not much like this around here. And I was hoping to get up into that with you today, but I guess I'm just too slow. Eddie's doing his best to pull me up this hill. But I want to at least get to a spot where I can show you kind of a view to show you, in fact, how the elevation has changed dramatically. Which, with the tree still maintaining a lot of the leaf coverage, it's difficult to see. But definitely got some elevation change going on here. Now I'm dropping back down a little, and then we're going to make another climb. So as we do that, we're gonna look at an article with this video from the day that just so happens. I mean, it just came out a couple weeks ago in September 2020 about the Avalonia Preserve, or the Tri-Town Preserve. And this location gives us a little history. Talks about some of those native walls, and just how kind of new this place is. I mean, like, many of the trails here have just recently been cut and blazed. You can see, I mean, super well marked. This place is so big that if they didn't mark these trails well, there'd be some rescue operations going on back here. They'd be back here looking for people like me, getting lost out here in the woods. But super well marked. And just I mean, this place is cool, guys. Like, I couldn't encourage you more to go to a place than this place. Like, there's not a place around here. Check that out up there. I mean, we just don't have stuff like this around here. This kind of geographic variety isn't something we think of when we think of southeastern Connecticut. And I mean, if we could do a field trip to one place this fall, this year, this is where we'd go, no doubt. So that's something I'd like to explore with you guys, like you guys getting out. Like, ultimately, we're going to do some stuff where you do some work, kind of like I'm doing right now, within reason. I know everybody's got different situations, and getting around might not be as accessible to, well, we don't all have the same, we're not all driving. Maybe I don't want to force your parents to drive you somewhere, but we got a lot of stuff in town, and then we got places like this that are relatively close. So we're definitely going to do some encouraging of getting out and exploring these type of places, because they're just pretty cool. All right, so we're getting up in here now. Maybe I'll keep this one to 15 minutes. You can see right here, rock wall built kind of into the side of this hill, wrapping around. That's not normally the work of the colonial farmer, because they wouldn't have been farming this land, up on an embankment like this. This would have required a different type of farming technique. The name escapes me now, like a tier approach, kind of like what was used in ancient China and even today in China. This farming technique where you build into the side of a hill and you build little, essentially like retaining walls. That wasn't really how the colonial farmer got down. They weren't really doing that kind of approach. They were more subsistence farming, kind of doing their thing, growing enough for their family, maybe a little bit to trade so they could get some stuff. But farming into the side of a relatively steep hill would have been a bridge too far for many of them. Coming up, we're now getting up into some areas where the leaves are really dropping. You can see out Connecticut countryside essentially, but I mean, I'm really pointing my camera towards Stonington on the other side of those hills over there. If that wasn't there, you probably could see out to the water. It's pretty sweet. So coming up, we're almost to the point where we're gonna call it a wrap on this. So you can call me a liar for saying I want to keep these videos to 10 minutes. Sometimes they'll be a little bit longer. It's sweet, man. Looking out. I mean, if you told me I was looking out at like the Berkshires out in Western Mass, or in the Green Mountains in Vermont, or even up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, national forest, I would say, yeah, that looks about right. Beautiful. Here, a little secret gem here in Stonington, Connecticut, or North Stonington. Pretty cool. So, the gist for today, talking about these native walls, kind of being able to recognize the difference between a wall most likely built by Native Americans and a wall built by a colonial farmer. The curved serpentine type walls, almost certainly native. The straight 90-degree angle walls, colonial farmer. And it's pretty neat that we still have them. I really do view it as kind of like archaeology and like looking into our past, the past of our area. And like I've said it before, guys, it's humbling when you start thinking about people living here so long ago, for hundreds and thousands of years when it comes to natives. That's humbling. Our brief time here, we get our, hopefully a nice long run, and we see, the world we live in, and we think like, yeah, this is it. This is like, it's us. It's about us. Kind of like narcissistic tendencies of all of us. So it's good to just for a little bit at least sit back and go like, yeah, man, there were people here a long time ago living on these lands, and we sort of owe it to them and to people in the future to keep that, to keep it, we continue to evolve and progress, but it's a cool bench, that's new, but to keep it, to keep these places, because once they're gone, they're gone. And we're super fortunate here in this area to have groups like Avalonia and these different land conservancies that are preserving and protecting these areas, or finding a way to practice conservation to use these areas where we don't lose them. Again, I don't know how well this shows, but I'm looking out here, and I feel, I can't believe this was like a 20-minute drive from my house and from where Stonington High School is. It's incredible. It's a great thing that we have this, and these areas that people have been living on and farming, or for natives that had great meaning to them, and civilizations lived here long before us. We just need to recognize that and preserve it, and find a way to maintain it and not wipe it from history. Like, history is important, whether it's our use of land, our geography, it all kind of is connected. And that's sort of what we're getting to here, guys. So this is a super long video, and I apologize for that. I'll probably do it again, though, not on purpose, but just because I got a lot to say about this stuff. And this is the Tri-Town Preserve, and it's probably my favorite place to get out in the woods, especially with my man Eddie. He's a good boy. These are also my favorite days to get out and do it. Get out and go for a hike when it's cold and rainy. It makes me kind of crazy, I know, but it's a little struggle, a little strenuous work. It's a good thing, I think. So we'll be back here the next time I do a video here for our class. It'll focus more on the human environment interaction stuff, a little more with the rock walls, but with the cairns, the native burial sites, and some of the colonial remnants of the past, the foundations, and a mill. There's a mill in here. There's remnants of a mill from milling food, most likely, or grinding, like a grist mill. But we'll come back to all that. We'll do it in the days to come, and I'm going to make sure I get this thing done in under 20 minutes. So I will see you guys in class. I hope this video worked for you guys, and I'll see you around.